In 2016, two psychologists found something strange in the happiness data. The more time people spent with friends, the happier they got, with one exception. For the most intelligent people, it ran in reverse. More socializing left them less satisfied, not more. And the reason goes deeper than simple introversion. Maybe you felt it, standing in a room full of people, somehow lonelier than when you were alone. Smart people know this feeling intimately, and for a long time it got dismissed as a cliché. The brooding genius, the loner. But the link between intelligence and loneliness is real, and you can measure it. Researchers keep finding the same quiet pattern. The higher someone scores on tests of intelligence, the fewer close friendships they tend to have. It's not that they can't be liked, many of them are charming. It's that something about how their mind works makes ordinary connection harder to enjoy. And here's what makes it worse. From the outside, this loneliness gets misread. People mistake it for arrogance, for coldness, for thinking you're better than everyone. The smart person isn't looking down on the room, they're just not finding what they're looking for in it. And often, they can't even explain what that missing thing is. There's a famous psychologist from the 1930s who stumbled onto a clue. She studied highly gifted children and noticed something almost no one expected. Past a certain point, being smarter didn't make life easier, it made fitting in harder. But the strangest part isn't that intelligent people are lonelier. It's why their own brains might quietly prefer it. Start with the most obvious friction: small talk. For most people, small talk is the bridge into connection. Weather, weekend plans, a little gossip. It's low stakes, and it's how strangers slowly turn into friends. But for a mind that runs on ideas, small talk can feel like static. A psychologist named Matthias Mehl recorded snippets of people's real conversations for days. He found the happiest people had far fewer shallow exchanges and far more substantial ones. For smart people, that hunger for substance is turned all the way up. They don't want to talk about the weather, they want to know what keeps you up at night. But you can't open most conversations that way without scaring people off. So the intelligent person sits through the small talk, waiting for a door that often never opens. And eventually, many of them just stop showing up to the small talk at all. Picture someone at a party, perfectly pleasant, nodding along. Inside, they're starving for one real sentence. They leave early, and everyone assumes they're antisocial. The truth is the opposite. They wanted connection so badly that the fake version felt unbearable. That's the first tax intelligence quietly charges: a low tolerance for the shallow end. Now here's where it gets genuinely strange, and where that 2016 study comes back. The two psychologists, Satoshi Kanazawa and Norman Lee, had a theory. They called it the savanna theory of happiness. The idea is that our brains were shaped on the African savanna, in small bands of around 150. For our ancestors, constant contact with friends and allies was survival, so our wiring rewards it. For most people, that ancient code still runs: more time with friends, more happiness. But when they looked at the most intelligent people, the pattern flipped. For them, frequent socializing was linked to lower life satisfaction, not higher. And their explanation is fascinating. Intelligence, they argue, evolved as a tool for solving novel problems. The unusual, the unfamiliar. And a mind built to handle the unfamiliar depends less on the tribe to feel okay. Smart people are, in a sense, better adapted to going it alone. So the constant socializing that soothes most of us can feel, to them, like a drain. A drain on the thing they value most: their own mind and its space to think. You've probably felt a version of this. That itch to leave a long social event, not because you're sad, but because you can hear your own thoughts getting impatient. There's a second tax, and it's sneakier: awareness. Intelligent people tend to see the layer underneath the conversation. The little social games. The status moves. The thing someone says that isn't quite what they mean. Most people glide right over all of that. It makes socializing smooth. But once you can see the machinery, it's hard to unsee it.
A compliment can register as a tactic. A friendly question can feel like a setup. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition turned up too high, and it has a cost. When part of your mind is always analyzing, it's hard to just be with someone. Smart people also tend to overthink the interaction afterward, replaying what they said. That same powerful mind that solves hard problems will happily spend the night dissecting one sentence. So connection becomes effortful where it should feel easy, and effort, repeated enough times, slowly becomes avoidance. Now remember that psychologist from the 1930s? Her name was Lita Hollingworth. She spent her life studying exceptionally gifted children, and she noticed that intelligence and social ease only rise together up to a point. She mapped out a kind of sweet spot. bright enough to lead and be understood, but not so far ahead that no one can follow. Past that range, something painful happens. The gap between how you see the world and how those around you see it grows too wide to bridge. You can still talk to people, you just can't be fully understood by them. And being understood is the whole heart of connection. Think about what real friendship needs. A shared wavelength, jokes that don't need explaining. The further your mind sits from average, the rarer those matching minds become. It's not that smart people are too good for others, it's that the pool of people who genuinely speak their language is just statistically small. And for many smart people, this pattern was set in motion early. Gifted children often develop unevenly. Their minds race ahead while the rest of them is still a kid. A 10-year-old might reason like an adult, but still be stuck in a room full of 10-year-olds. Psychologists call this asynchronous development, and it is quietly isolating. You're too advanced for your peers and too young for the adults who could actually keep up. So a lot of bright kids learn a hard lesson before they can even name it. That being fully themselves means being a little alone. They get praised for their minds and subtly punished for them in the same breath. Picked first for the quiz team, picked last for the lunch table. And that early split leaves a mark. You learn to hide the depth to fit in, or you stop trying to fit in at all. By adulthood, it isn't a decision anymore, it's a reflex. The mind that made you the smart kid is the same one now sitting quietly at the edge of the party. So let's put the pieces together, because the real twist isn't what you'd expect. We treat the loneliness of smart people as a problem to be fixed. A flaw, a sad side effect. But look again at what the research is actually saying. The small talk that drains them, the socializing that lowers their satisfaction, the solitude their minds keep reaching for. None of that is malfunction, it's design. A mind built for depth will be starved by shallow contact and fed by deep thought. For that kind of brain, solitude isn't the punishment, it's the native habitat. Here's the clue that was hiding the whole time. When the study found smart people get less happiness from socializing, it wasn't measuring a defect, it was measuring self-sufficiency. Their well-being simply leans less on the crowd and more on the inner world. But, and this is the part that hurts, that same independence casts a shadow. Because there are actually two kinds of loneliness, and smart people feel both. There's the chosen kind, the quiet you need to think, and the painful kind, the ache of having a mind no one around you can meet. And the quiet tragedy is, they often confuse the two. They pull back to think, which they genuinely need. But then they stay pulled back too long, and the chosen solitude curdles into the painful kind. They tell themselves they're fine alone, because mostly, they are. Until one day they realize that fine alone and truly understood are not the same thing. If any of this sounds like you, here's what matters most. Your loneliness is probably not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's the natural cost of a mind that runs deep in a world that mostly runs wide. You're not too much, you're not cold, you're not broken, you're simply looking for something most rooms don't contain. And that thing is real, but you won't find it by forcing yourself to love small talk or collecting shallow friends. You find it the way smart people find everything, one layer down. The cure for this loneliness was never more people. It's a few of the right ones. One real conversation with someone who gets you will outweigh 100 parties. And those people are found one at a time, in depth, never in a crowd. So if you've been sitting alone, convinced your own mind is the problem, consider that it might just be a key, quietly waiting for the few locks it was actually made to open. If you want to understand what real connection actually requires, the psychology of deep conversation is your next video.